all the Americans making New Year's resolutions, there is one group with a big incentive to keep theirs: professional basketball players. Last September, the National Basketball Association resolved to wipe out drug abuse among players once and for all in the new year. League Commissioner Larry O'Brien and Players Association President Bob Lanier announced severe sanctions for current drug abusers who don't give up and seek voluntary help. The deadline is tomorrow night.
Drugs and the NBA do not mix. If you want to get involved in drugs, you will not be involved with the NBA.
We hope that this has a dramatic effect and that hopefully we help the individual to help himself. That's why we have this amnesty period, to give them a chance to come in, seek help. We're all for them. We don't want to penalize anybody. Obviously, we want people to be able to play and contribute to not only themselves and their families, but to this league as an industry.
The NBA program against drug abuse is by far the toughest in all the professional sports tainted by drug scandals. Any basketball player who is convicted or pleads guilty to using or dealing in cocaine or heroin will be permanently barred from the league. If the league itself discovers a player using, possessing, or selling the drugs, he will be permanently barred. But the league and the players' union can reinstate players after 2 years if they prove themselves to be rehabilitated. Players who voluntarily admit a drug problem will undergo treatment in a special drug abuse program. Those same players can return voluntarily a second time for treatment, but they'll be suspended without pay during the treatment. Any further relapses, and they too will be permanently barred. The program was approved by player representatives from 22 of the 23 professional teams. Charles Grantham is Executive Vice President of the National Basketball Players Association. Mr. Grantham, first of all, why did the Players' Union get involved in this?
Well, I think we all recognized that there was a problem. We certainly felt that we wanted to become in an active state as opposed to being reactive and sitting back and waiting for problems to come up and then learning how to deal with them. We thought that we needed a systematic way of handling drug use and drug abuse in our league. The players also were very tired of being stereotyped as being drug users and abusers. I think about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a very large article in the LA Times that came out and said that 75 or 85% of the players currently in the NBA were using drugs. That happened about the same time that we were having NBA players representative meetings, and the guys were really, really upset about that. And
was that estimate right in the players' view?
No, that estimate was definitely not right. We felt that the larger majority of our players certainly are drug-free. And it was time that we took an active part in reestablishing a firm image that we are drug-free, and that the players would take an active role in making sure that the league was drug-free.
Let's go through some of this. Why are the penalties so severe? I mean, being permanently barred from the game, that's the end of a career for somebody who might be a tremendous star earning hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. I think if you go back and think that and look at the players as a product, which essentially NBA basketball is, first of all, you recognize that as individuals, as people, we would like to help all individuals in the league. But we do have a responsibility. We've got a responsibility to the industry, we have a responsibility to fans, and our players certainly feel very strongly that they have a responsibility to young people.
You mean as role models?
As role models, certainly. And we felt very strongly that the whole concept of drug abuse and basketball and sports in general don't mix. Now, you'll notice that there is a very harsh penalty, a permanent ban. However, there are several steps leading up to that are helpful. They're not punitive. And our whole concept is to get those people in the league help as quickly as possible.
How's the league going to investigate this and find out whether players are on drugs or not?
Well, we will have a third-party arbiter, so to speak, who will review evidence as it's gathered on players and their use.
I mean, but how's that evidence going to be gathered? Is there some systematic way of doing that?
Well, currently, there's certainly we do have a security office in the league, and information from the local authorities and other people does surface about players and their use.
Well, are you just relying on people to come forward who suspect a player is using drugs to come forward and volunteer information? Or are you going to give, like they do in the Olympics, tests for drugs?
We will not test The primary responsibility of that third-party arbiter, who will be a drug enforcement, a drug detection type of individual, would be determined who is likely to be a drug user or abuser. And only at that point will be permission granted to be tested.
I just wonder whether because the penalty is so severe that the fellow players, knowing somebody is on drugs, might be hesitant to come and tell you because they know that they risk ruining the player's career.
Well, the data will be collected from many sources, and it's going to have to be substantial evidence and substantial information to lead one to believe that an individual player is going to use drugs or is using drugs. And only at that time will he be brought forth to be tested.
Now, many other pro sports, baseball for example, the players there not only don't approve of such drastic measures, but are actually fighting such drastic measures. Why are National Basketball Association players different?
Well, I think it goes back to what I termed earlier as being an active state or a reactive state. We are far more interested in establishing a procedure to handle a problem which is worldwide, certainly nationwide here in the United States, and developing a procedure to handle a problem that we hope, we can help the individual solve. It's a branch of an employee assistance program, basically what it is.
But are basketball players, because of their age, because of their race, a very high proportion are black among the stars, because of the very large amounts of money they earn at a very young age, the amount of traveling they do, I mean, are they more susceptible to falling into drugs than, say, baseball players who can be older and more experienced?
Well, I would say that two of the three were correct. I don't think race is certainly an area that would say more susceptible. I will say that the NBA players, given the fact that we are 75–80% black, felt very, very strongly about the poor image that we were attracting, namely drugs and black, and how that affected the overall industry, the overall dollars, the overall bottom line, as you say. And we felt very strongly that we had to come forward as a players' union to help resolve that issue.
You think the fans are really turning off basketball because of the drug image? Is that affecting business, box office, and stuff?
I think maybe 3 years ago it was starting to. I think it was a combination of factors that we read then. One being the possibility of drug use, two being a predominantly black league, three being just not enough interest, excitement, etc. And putting all those things together, we thought that the interest in basketball was starting to decline. As we begin to look at our products, i.e. the players, and how do you invest in them to make sure that they maintain a drug-free existence, that they help attract new audiences, and that they increase ratings. We started looking at all kinds of programs, and of course the Employee Assistance Program was one of them.
Mr. Grantham, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Judy?
More than 1.5 million White House documents left behind when Richard Nixon resigned.